In the heart of a busy city stood St. Vincent's Hospital, a place where lives were saved and stories unfolded every single day. It was an old building, its walls worn from years of service, but it remained a beacon of hope for countless people. Among the staff, Dr. Gregory Langley was a name everyone knew. He had worked at the hospital for over 20 years and was respected for his skills as a doctor. However, respect didn't always mean admiration. Dr. Langley had a reputation for being short-tempered and condescending. His sharp words often cut deeper than any scalpel, leaving both patients and colleagues feeling small. On one particularly chaotic afternoon, the emergency room buzzed with activity. Nurses rushed back and forth, their sneakers squeaking against the tiled floor. Babies cried in the pediatric section, and worried families huddled together in the waiting area, praying for good news. Amidst all this noise and movement, there was one man who seemed completely out of place. He sat quietly in a corner chair, his hands resting on his knees. He wore an old gray hoodie, faded jeans, and scuffed sneakers. His hair was slightly messy, and he hadn't shaved in a few days. To anyone passing by, he looked like just another person down on his luck, someone who might have come to the hospital seeking help. Dr. Langley noticed him almost immediately. As he strode through the hallway, clipboard in hand, his eyes landed on the stranger. Something about the man's calm demeanor irritated him. The doctor prided himself on being in control, on knowing exactly what needed to be done in every situation. But this man sitting so quietly as if he owned the place unsettled him. Dr. Langley frowned and marched over to the front desk where a young receptionist was typing furiously on her computer. "Who is that?" he demanded, nodding toward the man in the hoodie. The receptionist glanced up, then back at her screen. "Oh, him? He said he wants to talk to someone about improving patient care. I told him we're really busy right now, but he insisted on waiting." "Improving patient care?" Dr. Langley repeated, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What does he know about patient care? Look at him. He probably can't even afford health insurance." Without waiting for a response, he turned on his heel and headed straight for the man. Each step echoed loudly in the crowded room, drawing curious glances from nearby patients and staff. When he reached the stranger, Dr. Langley crossed his arms and looked down at him with obvious disdain. "Can I help you?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already thought the answer was no. The man looked up, his face calm and unreadable. "Yes, thank you," he replied softly. "I'm here because I want to see how we can make things better for everyone who comes here." Dr. Langley blinked, taken aback by the polite response. For a moment he considered giving the man a chance, but only for a moment. Then his pride took over. "Listen," he said sharply, leaning closer. "This isn't some charity case. If you're here because you need treatment, fine. But don't waste our time pretending you care about improving anything. People like you don't understand what real work looks like." The man didn't flinch. Instead, he gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. "I assure you," he said, calmly, "my intentions are genuine." Dr. Langley rolled his eyes. "Sure they are," he muttered under his breath. "If you'll excuse me, I have actual patients to attend to." With that, he spun around and walked away, leaving the stranger still sitting there, unfazed by the insult. What Dr. Langley didn't realize was that the man he had dismissed so rudely was Keanu Reeves, the actor and philanthropist who had recently purchased St. Vincent's Hospital. Keanu had been looking for ways to give back to society, and when the opportunity arose to buy the struggling hospital, he jumped at it. His vision was simple, yet powerful: to create a world-class medical facility where everyone, regardless of their background, could receive top-notch care. But instead of announcing his arrival with fanfare, Keanu chose to visit the hospital incognito, wanting to observe firsthand how things operated before making any decisions. As Keanu watched Dr. Langley disappear down the hall, he felt a mix of emotions. Part of him was amused by the doctor's arrogance, while another part felt sorry for him. He understood that stress and burnout could push even the best people to act poorly, but he also knew that such behavior couldn't continue unchecked. Still, he decided not to reveal his identity just yet. There was something intriguing about seeing how events would unfold naturally, without interference. After all, understanding the challenges faced by the hospital and its staff was key to finding solutions that truly worked. Over the next few hours, Keanu wandered through the hospital, observing interactions between doctors, nurses, and patients. He saw moments of kindness and compassion, but he also witnessed frustration and exhaustion. In one room, a nurse comforted a crying child while his mother paced anxiously outside. In another, two doctors argued heatedly about a diagnosis, their voices carrying down the corridor. Everywhere he went, Keanu listened intently, absorbing details that would later inform his plans for change. By the end of the day, word had spread among the staff about the mysterious visitor who seemed genuinely interested in their work. Some whispered excitedly about the possibility of funding or upgrades, while others remained skeptical, wondering if this was just another fleeting promise destined to fade away. Meanwhile, Dr. Langley remained oblivious to the growing buzz. His encounter with Keanu had left him feeling smug, convinced he had put an unwelcome intruder in his place. Little did he know, the man he had insulted held the power to reshape not only the hospital, but also his own future. The next morning, Keanu returned to St. Vincent's Hospital. This time he dressed a little more formally, wearing a clean button-up shirt and neat trousers. He still didn't want to draw attention to himself, but he knew that blending in completely wasn't necessary anymore. The staff had begun to recognize him as someone important, even if they weren't sure exactly who he was. As he walked through the hospital doors, a few nurses nodded politely in his direction, and one doctor stopped to thank him for taking the time to listen to their concerns. Keanu spent most of the day meeting with different teams: nurses, technicians, janitors, and administrative staff. He wanted to hear from everyone, not just the doctors or senior management. To many of them, it felt strange at first. They weren't used to having someone ask about their experiences so genuinely. Most visitors who came to the hospital were either patients or family members, and the rare official usually focused only on numbers and budgets. But Keanu was different. He asked thoughtful questions, listened carefully to their answers, and made notes in a small notebook he carried with him. One nurse named Clara shared how hard it was to keep morale high when resources were stretched thin. "We care about our patients," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "But sometimes it feels like we're fighting against the system instead of working with it." Another employee, a maintenance worker named Joe, talked about the outdated equipment causing frequent breakdowns. "It slows everything down," he explained, "and when things break, it takes forever to fix them because we don't have the parts we need." Keanu nodded sympathetically, jotting down each point. He could see why people were struggling. The hospital had been running on a tight budget for years, and while the staff did their best, the lack of proper tools and support made their jobs much harder than they needed to be. He promised everyone that changes would come soon, though he didn't reveal how or when. His calm confidence reassured them, and by the end of the day, there was a growing sense of hope among the employees. Meanwhile, Dr. Langley grew increasingly irritated. Rumors about the mysterious benefactor swirled around the hospital, and no matter where he went, he overheard snippets of conversations praising this newcomer. At first, he dismissed it as idle gossip, but as more people mentioned the man's name, or rather described him, it became clear that something significant was happening. And then it hit him. The scruffy man from the waiting area. The same person he had insulted just days ago. Could it really be the same guy? Dr. Langley tried to shake off the thought, telling himself it was impossible. Surely someone with enough influence to spark such excitement wouldn't dress like a vagrant. Still, doubt gnawed at him. That evening, unable to concentrate on his paperwork, he decided to confront the situation head-on. If this stranger truly believed he could waltz into his hospital and start making changes, Dr. Langley intended to set him straight. The following morning, Keanu arrived early and joined a meeting with the hospital's leadership team. Several department heads were present, discussing potential improvements and sharing ideas. When Keanu spoke, his suggestions were practical, yet innovative. He proposed upgrading the aging machinery, hiring additional staff to ease the workload, and implementing training programs focused on patient communication. The room buzzed with enthusiasm as people realized these weren't empty promises. He clearly had the means and the vision to make them happen. Just as the meeting began to wind down, the door opened and Dr. Langley stormed in. His face was red and his hands were clenched into fists at his sides. Everyone turned to look at him, surprised by the interruption. Ignoring their stares, Dr. Langley zeroed in on Keanu. "You," he barked, pointing a finger dramatically. "Who do you think you are coming here and telling us how to run things? You don't know anything about medicine or what it's like to work in a place like this." The room fell silent. People exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what to say or do. Keanu, however, remained composed. He leaned back slightly in his chair and studied Dr. Langley with an expression that was neither angry nor amused, just calm and steady. After a pause, he replied, "Dr. Langley, I understand your frustration. Change can be unsettling, but my goal isn't to criticize or disrupt. It's to help." "Help?" Dr. Langley scoffed. "Help? You've done nothing but meddle since you got here. What credentials do you even have? Are you some rich donor playing doctor? Or maybe you're just another celebrity trying to feel good about yourself by throwing money around?" His words hung heavy in the air, sharp and cutting. For a moment, no one dared to breathe. Then Keanu stood up slowly. Though he wasn't particularly tall, his presence commanded attention. He looked directly at Dr. Langley and said, "I assure you my intentions are sincere, but perhaps now is the right time for me to clarify something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a document, which he handed to the nearest administrator. "This is proof of ownership," he explained simply. "I recently acquired St. Vincent's Hospital. My aim is to transform it into a facility that serves everyone with dignity and excellence." Gasps rippled through the room as realization dawned. Some people covered their mouths in shock, others exchanged wide-eyed looks. Even Dr. Langley seemed frozen, his mouth slightly open as he processed what he'd just heard. Ownership? This quiet, unassuming man owned the entire hospital? For several seconds, nobody moved. Finally, Dr. Langley stammered, You own the hospital?" His voice cracked halfway through, betraying his disbelief. Keanu nodded once. "Yes. And I'm committed to ensuring that every person who walks through these doors receives the care they deserve." Dr. Langley's face turned pale, then flushed bright red again. He opened his mouth as if to apologize, but no words came out. Instead, he sank into the nearest chair, looking utterly defeated. Around him, the rest of the staff began whispering excitedly. For weeks, they had been speculating about the identity of their mysterious visitor. Now they knew, and the revelation filled them with hope. After the initial shock wore off, Keanu addressed the group. "I didn't come here to embarrass anyone," he said gently. "I came because I believe in this hospital and its mission. Yes, there are challenges ahead, but together we can overcome them. Let's focus on building something better, for ourselves and for our patients." As the meeting concluded, the atmosphere shifted noticeably. People left the room energized, eager to share the news with their colleagues. Word spread quickly throughout the hospital. The man who had been quietly observing and listening was none other than Keanu Reeves, the actor and philanthropist. And not only that, he was now their boss. For Dr. Langley, however, the day ended on a very different note. As the reality of his earlier behavior sank in, he felt a mix of shame and dread. How could he have been so blind, so arrogant? He knew he had burned bridges with his harsh words, and now he feared the consequences. Would he lose his job, be demoted, or worse, become a laughingstock among his peers? That night, as he sat alone in his office, staring blankly at the wall, Dr. Langley couldn't stop replaying the events of the past few days in his mind. He had always prided himself on being in control, on knowing exactly what to say and do. Yet here he was, humbled, not by a rival or superior, but by a man whose kindness and humility shone brighter than any title or degree. For the first time in years, Dr. Langley found himself questioning not just his actions, but the kind of person he had become. Over the next few days, St. Vincent's Hospital buzzed with excitement. News of Keanu Reeves' ownership spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the building. Patients whispered about it in waiting rooms, nurses shared stories during lunch breaks, and even the janitorial staff couldn't stop talking about the actor-turned-philanthropist who had taken an interest in their workplace. For many, it felt surreal. A Hollywood star stepping into their lives not to make headlines but to create real change. Keanu wasted no time putting his plans into motion. Within a week, new equipment began arriving at the hospital. State-of-the-art MRI machines, advanced surgical tools, and updated monitors replaced the old, worn-out gear that had been limping along for years. The maintenance team worked tirelessly to install everything, often staying late into the night. Joe, the janitor, who had spoken to Keanu about broken equipment, found himself smiling more than usual. "It's like Christmas came early," he told a colleague as they unpacked boxes of shiny new supplies. But Keanu didn't stop there. He also announced plans to hire additional staff, including more nurses and support personnel, to ease the overwhelming workload. Clara, the nurse who had confided in him about low morale, was thrilled when 2 new hires joined her department. "Finally," she said with relief, "we won't have to stretch ourselves so thin just to keep up." Training programs focused on empathy and communication were introduced, encouraging staff to connect with patients on a deeper level. Posters went up around the hospital reminding everyone, every patient matters. While most employees embraced the changes enthusiastically, Dr. Langley struggled to find his footing. His initial shock over Keanu's identity slowly gave way to guilt and fear. Every time he passed Keanu in the hallway or saw him speaking warmly with other staff members, Dr. Langley felt a pang of shame. He replayed their confrontations in his mind, cringing at how rude and dismissive he had been. What made it worse was knowing that Keanu hadn't retaliated or held a grudge. Instead, he continued to treat everyone, including Dr. Langley, with kindness and respect. One afternoon, Keanu called a meeting with the senior medical staff. When Dr. Langley entered the conference room, he hesitated before taking a seat near the back, hoping to avoid attention. As the meeting progressed, Keanu outlined his vision for the hospital's future. He spoke passionately about creating an environment where both patients and staff felt valued and supported. Then, unexpectedly, he turned to Dr. Langley. "Dr. Langley," he said, his tone calm but firm, "I'd like you to take on a leadership role in implementing some of these changes." The room fell silent. Everyone looked at Dr. Langley, whose face flushed red. He opened his mouth to protest, but Keanu continued, "You've been here longer than anyone else. Your experience is invaluable, and I believe you can help guide us towards success." Dr. Langley blinked, caught off guard. He had expected punishment, maybe even termination, not responsibility. For a moment, he considered refusing, but something stopped him. Perhaps it was the sincerity in Keanu's voice or the realization that this might be his chance to redeem himself. Slowly he nodded. "Thank you," he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "I'll do my best." As the weeks passed, Dr. Langley threw himself into his new role. At first it was awkward. He wasn't used to collaborating with others or asking for input, but under Keanu's guidance, he started to soften. He attended workshops on leadership and communication, learning techniques to manage stress and build stronger relationships with colleagues. Gradually, he began to see the value in listening rather than dictating. It wasn't easy. Old habits died hard, but he was determined to change. Meanwhile, Keanu remained a constant presence at the hospital. He visited regularly, checking in on projects and chatting with staff. One day, he stopped by the pediatric ward where children recovering from surgeries played quietly in a brightly decorated playroom. A young girl named Mia, who had recently undergone heart surgery, approached him shyly. She held out a drawing she had made, a colorful picture of a hospital surrounded by smiling stick figures. "This is for you," she said softly. "Thank you for making it nicer here." Keanu crouched down to her level, his eyes softening. "That's beautiful." "Mia, thank you." He took the drawing and pinned it to the bulletin board outside the ward where visitors could see it. To him, it symbolized why he had invested so much time and effort into St. Vincent's, to bring hope and healing to people like Mia. Back in the administrative offices, things were moving quickly. Budgets were restructured to prioritize patient care, and partnerships with local universities allowed medical students to train at the hospital. Staff meetings became less formal and more collaborative, with everyone encouraged to share ideas. Even small gestures like providing free coffee in the break room or organizing monthly appreciation events boosted morale significantly. People smiled more, laughed louder, and worked harder, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Despite all the progress, challenges remained. Some older doctors resisted the changes, clinging to outdated methods and attitudes. Others worried about whether the hospital could sustain such rapid growth, but Keanu remained patient, addressing concerns one by one and reassuring everyone that they were building something lasting. Change takes time, he reminded them during a town hall meeting. We're planting seeds now so we can grow together. Dr. Langley, though still grappling with self-doubt, found himself inspired by Keanu's perseverance. Watching the man interact with patients and staff alike, he realized that true leadership wasn't about authority, it was about service. For years, he had prided himself on being the smartest person in the room, but now he understood that intelligence meant nothing without compassion. He started spending more time with his patients, listening to their stories and explaining treatments in ways they could understand. Slowly but surely, his reputation began to shift. Colleagues noticed the difference, and even skeptical patients warmed up to him. By the end of the month, St. Vincent's Hospital looked almost unrecognizable. Fresh paint brightened the walls, new furniture filled the waiting areas, and cheerful artwork adorned the hallways. The atmosphere felt lighter, friendlier. Nurses joked that the hospital had gone from feeling like a cold institution to a warm home. And while Keanu deserved much of the credit, the entire staff shared in the pride of what they had accomplished together. One evening, as Dr. Langley sat in his office reviewing case files, he glanced at a framed photo on his desk. It showed him shaking hands with Keanu after a particularly successful project launch. The memory brought a faint smile to his lips. He had come a long way since that fateful day in the waiting area, when he insulted the very man who now inspired him daily. Though he knew he still had work to do, he felt hopeful. For the first time in years, he believed he could be better, not just as a doctor, but as a person. Outside, the city lights twinkled against the dark sky. Inside St. Vincent's Hospital, life carried on as usual. Doctors rushed between appointments, nurses comforted anxious families, and patients dreamed of brighter tomorrows. Change was never easy, but it was happening, and thanks to Keanu's vision and determination, the future looked promising indeed. Months passed, and St. Vincent's Hospital continued to transform under Keanu Reeves's leadership. The once dreary building now radiated warmth and energy, with staff members moving through the halls with renewed purpose. Patients noticed the difference too. Smiles greeted them at every turn, wait times shortened, and treatments felt less like cold procedures and more like acts of care. It was as if the entire hospital had taken a deep breath and exhaled hope. Keanu remained deeply involved in the day-to-day operations, often walking the floors to check on progress. He made it a point to speak with patients, asking how they were feeling and whether there was anything else the hospital could do for them. To many, he wasn't just the owner. He was a friend who genuinely cared. One elderly man, recovering from a hip replacement, told his family that meeting Keanu brightened his stay. He's not just some big shot, the man said, leaning back in his bed. He listens. You can tell he really means what he says. Dr. Langley, meanwhile, continued to grow into his new role. At first, leading initiatives felt foreign to him. He had always preferred working alone, trusting only his own judgment. But Keanu's approach taught him the value of teamwork. During weekly meetings, Dr. Langley began encouraging input from junior doctors and nurses, something he would never have considered before. At one session, A young nurse named Emily suggested implementing a buddy system for new hires, pairing them with experienced staff to ease their transition. The idea was simple yet effective, and when it launched successfully, Dr. Langley publicly praised Emily for her contribution. "It feels strange," Dr. Langley admitted to Clara during a quiet moment in the break room. "I used to think I knew everything. Now I realize I don't even know half of it." Clara smiled knowingly. "That's growth," she said. "And honestly, it suits you." Despite these positive changes, not everyone adapted easily. A small group of senior doctors resisted the shift toward collaboration, clinging to traditional methods and resenting the influx of younger voices. They grumbled about losing control and complained that Keanu's reforms prioritized image over substance. Their resistance created tension within certain departments, threatening to undo some of the progress that had been made. Recognizing the issue, Keanu called another meeting, this time inviting all staff members, not just the leadership team. Standing at the front of the room, he addressed the concerns head-on. "Change is hard," he began, his voice steady and reassuring. "It challenges us to rethink what we believe and how we work. But remember why we're doing this: to give our patients the best care possible. If any part of this process feels unfair or unclear, please speak up. We're all in this together." His words resonated with most of the staff, but the skeptics remained unmoved. After the meeting, Dr. Langley approached Keanu privately. "Some people aren't happy," he said cautiously. "They feel pushed aside." Keanu nodded thoughtfully. "I understand their frustration. Change is uncomfortable. But we can't let fear hold us back. Maybe we need to find ways to involve them more, to show them they still matter." With that in mind, Dr. Langley proposed forming a committee specifically for veteran staff members. Its purpose would be to review new policies and provide feedback, ensuring that decades of experience weren't overlooked. To his surprise, the idea gained traction quickly. Even the most resistant doctors warmed up slightly when they realized their opinions were valued. As the months rolled on, St. Vincent's began earning recognition beyond its walls. Local news outlets covered the hospital's transformation, highlighting stories of patients whose lives had improved thanks to the upgrades and compassionate care. Social media buzzed with praise, and soon donations poured in from grateful families and community supporters. Keanu insisted that every dollar go directly toward patient services, reinforcing his commitment to accessibility and quality care. One particularly touching story captured widespread attention. A single mother named Lisa brought her son, Timmy, to the emergency room after he collapsed during soccer practice. Tests revealed a rare heart condition requiring immediate surgery. Without insurance, Lisa feared she wouldn't be able to afford the procedure. Instead of turning her away, the hospital offered financial assistance and fast-tracked Timmy's treatment. Within days, he was recovering in a private room, surrounded by toys donated by the staff. When reporters interviewed Lisa, tears streamed down her face as she thanked everyone involved. "This place saved my boy's life," she said. "I'll never forget what they've done for us." Stories like Lisa's became common, each one adding to the hospital's reputation as a beacon of kindness and innovation. Yet Keanu refused to rest on his laurels. He knew that maintaining excellence required constant effort. Every morning he arrived early to review reports, meet with department heads, and ensure that no detail slipped through the cracks. His dedication inspired those around him, proving that true leadership meant rolling up your sleeves alongside everyone else. For Dr. Langley, the journey wasn't without its struggles. There were days when old habits crept back in, moments when impatience got the better of him. But instead of hiding his mistakes, he owned them. During one particularly stressful shift, he snapped at a resident over a minor error. Later that evening, he sought out the young doctor and apologized sincerely. "I messed up," he said. "You deserve better from me." The gesture earned him respect from both the resident and others who witnessed it. Word spread quietly among the staff. Dr. Langley was changing, not overnight but steadily. He attended workshops on emotional intelligence, practiced mindfulness techniques, and even started journaling to reflect on his interactions. Though he occasionally stumbled, he kept pushing forward, determined to honor the second chance Keanu had given him. By the end of the year, St. Vincent's Hospital stood as a testament to what could happen when compassion met action. Awards lined the walls of the administration office, recognizing achievements in patient care, innovation, and community service. Visitors marveled at the modern facilities and friendly atmosphere, often remarking that it didn't feel like a hospital at all. It felt like home. At the annual staff banquet, Keanu took the stage to deliver a heartfelt speech. "None of this would have been possible without you," he said, looking out at the sea of faces. "Each of you has played a role in making St. Vincent's what it is today. Thank you for believing in this vision, for showing up every day, and for caring so deeply about the people we serve." As applause filled the room, Dr. Langley sat quietly, reflecting on how far he and the hospital had come. He remembered the man in the hoodie sitting in the waiting area, the sharp words he had spoken, and the humbling discovery of who that man truly was. Most importantly, he remembered the lessons he had learned since then: humility, empathy, and the power of second chances. When the event ended, Keanu lingered behind, chatting with staff members and thanking them individually. As he shook hands with Dr. Langley, he paused and smiled warmly. "You've done great work," he said simply. Those 4 words meant more to Dr. Langley than any award or title ever could. For the first time in years, he felt proud, not just of himself, but of the hospital, the team, and the future they were building together. The following year brought even greater strides for St. Vincent's Hospital. With Keanu Reeves at the helm, the facility became a model of innovation and compassion, drawing attention from medical professionals across the country. Hospitals in other cities began reaching out, eager to learn how they could replicate St. Vincent's success. Conferences invited Keanu to speak about his approach to healthcare reform, but he always redirected praise to the staff. "It's not about me," he would say humbly. "It's about the incredible people who show up every day to make a difference." Inside the hospital, life continued to improve. New programs launched regularly, each designed to address specific needs within the community. A free mental health clinic opened its doors twice a week, offering counseling services to those struggling with anxiety, depression, or trauma. Another initiative provided transportation for low-income patients unable to afford rides to and from appointments. These efforts weren't flashy or expensive. They were practical solutions born from listening to what people truly needed. Dr. Langley played a key role in many of these projects, his transformation now undeniable. Once known as the gruff, unapproachable doctor, he had become a mentor to younger staff members and an advocate for patient-centered care. His leadership style shifted dramatically. Instead of barking orders, he encouraged collaboration and creativity. During brainstorming sessions, he often reminded everyone, "There's no such thing as a bad idea. Let's hear it all." This openness fostered trust among the team, making them feel valued and empowered. One afternoon, Dr. Langley found himself sitting in a small conference room with a group of residents discussing ways to reduce stress among staff. The topic was close to his heart. He knew firsthand how burnout could affect performance and morale. As the discussion unfolded, one young doctor shyly suggested starting a weekly yoga class for employees. At first, some laughed nervously, unsure if it was a serious proposal. But Dr. Langley leaned forward, nodding thoughtfully. "That's actually a great idea," he said. "Let's look into it." Within weeks, yoga mats appeared in a vacant office space, and volunteer instructors led calming sessions after shifts. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Nurses, doctors, and even maintenance workers joined in, finding solace in the quiet moments between stretches and breaths. Even Dr. Langley attended occasionally, surprising everyone when he admitted it helped clear his mind. "Never thought I'd be doing downward dog at my age," he joked during one session, earning laughter from the group. Despite the progress, challenges still arose. One particularly difficult case tested the hospital's resolve. A teenage boy, named Alex, arrived in critical condition after a car accident. His injuries required multiple surgeries, round-the-clock monitoring, and specialized equipment. Though the hospital spared no expense in treating him, complications kept arising. Days turned into weeks and hope wavered as Alex fought for his life. During this time, Keanu visited Alex's bedside frequently, speaking with his parents and reassuring them that the hospital would do everything possible to save their son. He also checked in with the medical team, ensuring they had the resources and support they needed. It was exhausting work, both physically and emotionally, but no one gave up. Finally, after nearly 2 months, Alex stabilized enough to begin rehabilitation. When he was wheeled out of the ICU, tears streamed down his mother's face as she hugged every nurse and doctor she could reach. "You saved him," she whispered. "Thank you." Moments like these reinforced why Keanu had invested so much in St. Vincent's. Saving lives wasn't just about having the best technology, it was about creating an environment where miracles could happen, because everyone cared deeply. He shared Alex's story at a national healthcare summit, emphasizing the importance of teamwork, perseverance, and empathy. By the end of his speech, the audience erupted into applause, inspired by the tangible impact of his vision. Back at the hospital, Keanu decided to celebrate the milestones achieved over the past year. He organized a special event called a Night of Gratitude, inviting patients, families, donors, and staff to gather in the newly renovated atrium. The space sparkled with string lights and tables overflowed with food donated by local restaurants. Music played softly in the background as people mingled, sharing stories and expressing thanks. At the center of the room stood a large display featuring photos and testimonials from patients whose lives had been changed by St. Vincent's. There was Mia, the little girl with the colorful drawing now running around happily after her successful surgery. Lisa and Timmy, the mother and son who had received financial assistance, posed together with bright smiles. And there was Alex, sitting upright in a wheelchair, surrounded by his family. Each photo told a story of resilience and hope, reminding everyone present why their work mattered. When it came time for speeches, Keanu stepped forward, holding a microphone loosely in one hand. "Tonight is about gratitude," he began, his voice warm and steady. "We're grateful for our patients who remind us why we do what we do. We're grateful for our staff, who pour their hearts into every task. And we're grateful for this community, which has supported us every step of the way." He paused, scanning the crowd before continuing. "But let's not forget, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. There's still so much more we can achieve together. So tonight, let's celebrate not only what we've done, but what we will continue to do." As cheers filled the room, Dr. Langley watched silently from the sidelines. He felt a lump rise in his throat as he looked around at the faces of colleagues, patients, and friends. For years, he had viewed his job as simply a means to an end, a way to earn respect and prestige. Now he saw it differently. It wasn't about titles or accolades. It was about connection, about making someone's darkest hour a little brighter. After the event ended, Keanu sought out Dr. Langley. They stood near the entrance watching as guests filed out into the cool night air. "What did you think?" Keanu asked casually. Dr. Langley hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I think I finally understand what real leadership looks like," he admitted. "And I'm glad I got to see it firsthand." Keanu smiled, clapping him lightly on the shoulder. "You're part of it too, you know. You've grown so much since I first met you." The compliment caught Dr. Langley off guard. He nodded slowly, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "Thanks to you," he replied quietly. "If you hadn't given me another chance..." Keanu shook his head. "No, you earned this. Every step of the way." As they parted ways for the evening, Dr. Langley walked to his car, replaying the conversation in his mind. He thought about the man in the hoodie, the insults he had hurled, and the journey that followed. Life had a funny way of teaching lessons, sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully. Tonight, though, he felt only gratitude. Gratitude for second chances, for growth, and for the reminder that even the hardest hearts could change. In the months that followed, St. Vincent's Hospital continued to thrive. Its reputation grew, attracting top talent and inspiring others to follow its lead. Patients traveled from neighboring states to receive care, knowing they would be treated with dignity and kindness. Staff members remained committed to excellence, driven by the belief that they were part of something bigger than themselves. Through it all, Keanu stayed involved, always looking for ways to push boundaries and expand access to quality healthcare. Yet he never lost sight of the human element, the importance of seeing each person as an individual with unique needs and dreams. To him, that was the true measure of success. And as for Dr. Langley, he carried the lessons he had learned into every interaction, every decision, and every challenge. He wasn't perfect, but he was trying. And that, he realized, was enough. Years passed, and St. Vincent's Hospital became more than just a medical facility. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and community. The hospital's name appeared in national publications, praised for its innovative practices and unwavering commitment to patient care. People from all walks of life spoke highly of the staff, who treated everyone with kindness and respect. What had once been an aging, struggling institution was now a shining example of what healthcare could and should be. Keanu Reeves remained deeply connected to the hospital, though his role evolved over time. He continued to visit regularly, checking in on projects and meeting with patients and staff. However, he also began stepping back slightly, allowing the leadership team to take charge of day-to-day operations. His trust in them was well placed. Under Dr. Langley's guidance, the hospital thrived even further. New initiatives were launched, partnerships formed, and groundbreaking research conducted. Yet Keanu's influence lingered in every corner of the building, in the smiles of the nurses, the dedication of the doctors, and the gratitude of the patients. Dr. Gregory Langley had transformed completely. Gone was the arrogant man who dismissed others without a second thought. In his place stood a compassionate leader, respected not only for his medical expertise but also for his humility and empathy. He still made mistakes occasionally, as everyone does, but he handled them differently. Now with honesty and accountability. When a young intern accidentally misfiled a report causing delays in treatment, Dr. Langley didn't scold him. Instead, he sat down with the intern, reviewed the error together, and discussed ways to prevent it in the future. "We're all human," he said gently. "What matters is how we learn." This new approach earned him admiration from colleagues and mentees alike. Many younger doctors looked up to him as a role model, someone who proved that growth was possible at any stage of life. During one particularly memorable mentoring session, a resident asked him how he managed to change so much. Dr. Langley chuckled softly before replying, "It wasn't easy. I had to face some hard truths about myself. But when you realize you can do better for your patients, your team, and yourself, you find the strength to try." The hospital itself underwent constant improvements, always striving to stay ahead of the curve. Advanced technology integrated seamlessly into daily routines, streamlining processes and improving outcomes. Telemedicine services expanded, allowing rural patients to consult with specialists without traveling long distances. A garden was added to the rooftop, providing a peaceful retreat for both staff and patients. Every detail reflected Keanu's vision, creating a space where healing went beyond physical ailments to encompass emotional and mental well-being. One day, a letter arrived at the hospital's administration office. It was addressed to Keanu Reeves personally. Inside, a woman named Sarah wrote to express her gratitude. Her husband, Mark, had been diagnosed with terminal cancer 2 years earlier. Though his prognosis was grim, St. Vincent's provided exceptional palliative care, ensuring his final months were filled with dignity and comfort. "Thank you for giving us those precious moments," Sarah wrote. "Because of your hospital, my children will remember their father laughing, not suffering." When Keanu read the letter, tears welled up in his eyes. He shared it with Dr. Langley during their weekly meeting, emphasizing the importance of remembering why they did what they did. "This is why we're here," he said quietly. not for awards or recognition, but for moments like these. Inspired by stories like Sarah's, Keanu decided to expand his efforts beyond St. Vincent's. He founded a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving healthcare access nationwide. Funds raised through the nonprofit supported free clinics, scholarships for aspiring medical professionals, and research into affordable treatments. St. Vincent served as the flagship project, demonstrating what could be achieved with passion and perseverance. Meanwhile, Dr. Langley took on a new challenge: teaching. He began giving lectures at local universities, sharing insights gained from his journey. His talks focused not only on medicine but also on leadership, ethics, and personal growth. Students listened intently, captivated by his authenticity. After one lecture, a young woman approached him hesitantly. "I want to make a difference like you have," she said. "But I'm scared I won't be good enough." Dr. Langley smiled warmly. "None of us are perfect. We stumble, we fall, and we get back up. That's how we grow. Just keep showing up, and you'll surprise yourself." As the years rolled on, St. Vincent's continued to touch countless lives. Babies were born, surgeries performed, illnesses cured, all within walls that radiated warmth and care. Staff members came and went, each leaving behind a piece of themselves while carrying lessons learned. The hospital became a living legacy, growing stronger with every passing day. Eventually, Keanu stepped away entirely, confident that St. Vincent's was in capable hands. Before leaving, he gathered the entire staff in the atrium for a farewell speech. "You've built something extraordinary here," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "And I know it will continue to inspire and heal for generations to come. Thank you for letting me be part of this journey." Tears flowed freely as employees hugged him goodbye, thanking him for everything he had done. Dr. Langley stood near the front, watching silently. As Keanu turned to leave, he stopped briefly and clasped Dr. Langley's hand firmly. "Take care of this place," he said simply. "It's in good hands." With that, Keanu walked out the door, disappearing into the crowd outside. Though his presence would be missed, his impact remained undeniable. St. Vincent's carried forward his vision, guided by leaders like Dr. Langley, who embodied the values of compassion, humility, and service. In the end, the story of St. Vincent's Hospital wasn't just about one man or one moment. It was about the power of collective effort. It was about ordinary people coming together to create something extraordinary. And it was about proving that no matter how broken things seemed, change was always possible. Dr. Langley often reflected on this truth during quiet evenings in his office. Looking out at the bustling halls below, he felt immense pride, not in himself but in what they had accomplished together. From the scruffy stranger in the waiting area to the thriving hospital standing tall today, it had been a remarkable journey. One filled with challenges, yes, but also with hope, redemption, and endless possibilities. And so life at St. Vincent's went on. Patients entered its doors, seeking help, and they left carrying more than just prescriptions. They carried hope. Hope that tomorrow could be better. Hope that kindness mattered. Hope that even in the darkest times, light could shine through. Because sometimes, all it took was one person believing in change to spark a revolution.